You know exactly what you need to do. It's important, and waiting will only make it harder. And yet, you open your phone. You check one message, then another. Maybe you watch a short video, and suddenly 30 minutes are gone. The strangest part of this experience is the real-time awareness. You know you're procrastinating, and you likely feel a steady stream of guilt the entire time you're doing it. We often assume that simply knowing a task is important should be enough to trigger action. When it isn't, it is incredibly easy to write yourself off as lazy. Procrastination is a hidden, unconscious emotional battle happening inside your brain. Until you understand the invisible emotional forces actively fighting against your ability to start, any attempt to simply manage your time better is going to fail. When looking at a confusing or boring task, your brain doesn't just see the work itself. It reacts to how that work makes you feel, whether that's overwhelmed, incompetent, or afraid you might fail. Your brain's reward system evaluates that feeling. On one side, the delayed gratification of finishing a hard task. On the other, the immediate comfort of an easy distraction. Modern environments exploit this. One tap floods you with zero-effort stimulation, instantly outweighing that distant reward. Giving in to that immediate reward provides an instant drop in the negative emotions associated with your work. You tell yourself, "I'll do it later," and for a brief moment, you actually feel better. This temporary relief is dangerous. By rewarding you with comfort, it accidentally trains your brain to prioritize avoidance as the most effective path to feeling better. This flowchart maps the procrastination loop. It's a continuous cycle. A task triggers discomfort, leading to avoidance and temporary relief. But as you delay, background stress compounds. The task's difficulty merges with escalating guilt and the heavy pressure of a shrinking deadline. Eventually, this cycle reaches a breaking point. The deadline becomes so painfully close that raw panic finally overrides your brain's resistance, forcing you to sit down and work. If you manage to finish in time, you fall into the perfectionism trap. Surviving that last-minute rush teaches your brain that waiting until the end actually works, hardwiring the bad habit for the next project. Chronic procrastinators aren't making an active choice to fail. They are trapped in a self-reinforcing, stress-dependent neurological loop that requires panic to function. Breaking out of this loop doesn't require massive amounts of motivation. What it requires is a dramatic reduction in friction. This graph illustrates the scientific concept of activation energy. Notice how the absolute highest amount of effort is required at the exact moment you try to start, before quickly dropping off to a much lower, steady baseline. When you're staring down a vague, intimidating project, the required activation energy is huge. Contrast that with the zero-friction environment of your phone, which asks for almost nothing. The first actionable solution is to shrink the task down to its smallest concrete physical action. Don't tell yourself you need to write a report. Tell yourself to open a blank document. Shrinking the task artificially lowers that initial barrier of activation energy. It proves that getting started is usually a physics problem you can engineer your way out of, rather than a battle of willpower you have to win. You also need to disarm your environment before your willpower is depleted. Put your phone in another room, or turn off your notifications, so you aren't fighting a heavily engineered distraction every 30 seconds. Next, apply the 5-minute rule. Commit to doing the work for just 5 minutes. That short window is almost always enough to safely push past the initial dread of starting. When the urge to delay strikes anyway, perform a quick emotional triage. Pause and actively identify exactly what feeling you are trying to avoid, whether that is boredom, or feeling confused, or fear of judgment, to make the invisible threat tangible. You do not need to eliminate those uncomfortable feelings, and you do not have to wait until you feel ready to begin. Motivation is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it. By taking that very first step, your brain receives evidence that progress is possible, replacing the imaginary mountain with a manageable, real-world action.